So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And to everyone else, first, I would like to just introduce each of the three ladies here and share a little bit more about them before we get started with the discussion and the questions that we have. So first, we have Bridget. Among many titles, entrepreneur, brand co-founder, wife, and daughter, Bridget Williams is a visionary. Along with co-founders Nathalie and Camille Walker, Bridget developed Aurum79 Beauty, knowing firsthand the challenges of being a Black woman consumer. She knew the lack that existed for Black and brown women in the beauty world, whether it be lack of access, lack of representation, lack of products that cater to her demographic, and so forth. Out of that, Aurum79 Beauty was born. As a co-CEO of Aurum79 Beauty, Bridget came from a strong background of brand marketing experience with time spent in leadership roles focused on multicultural consumers. Problem solving was the name of her game. Her pride in her work is clear to see across the board, with her perfectionist Virgo energy shining through. And Nathalie Day. Nathalie Day's beauty journey began as a child, growing up on her grandmother's natural beauty remedies. Her itch to own a business led her straight to the founding of Aurum79 Beauty. Nathalie has extensive marketing experience to back up her love of natural beauty. Her time with Bacardi, Douce, Coca-Cola, and NBC Universal, among others, brings a unique point of view to the Aurum79 Beauty table. She can tell a brand story like nobody's business and knows how to connect brands to consumers in a meaningful way. Nathalie is a proud mother, daughter, wife, sister, and aunt. Camille Walker is a bona fide beauty industry professional. She has personal experience in all aspects of the beauty industry, from hair care to skincare to cosmetics. A self-described beauty junkie, she can't get enough of new textures, colors, formulas, and styles to try. It seems only natural that she'd end up a co-founder of Aurum79 Beauty. Her diverse professional background outside of the beauty industry provides an edge in how she helps run Aurum79 Beauty. Not only has she spent time at Avon and L'Oreal, she also has experience from companies like Unilever and Chase Bank. So again, thank you ladies for taking time out of your day to come and speak with our group to share the insights that you've all learned from your career journey.
Thank you so much for the invite. We're excited to be here.
Yes, very, very excited to have you. So to get started, my first question for you guys, and this will be mainly for Nathalie and Camille, who are moms. So I'm curious to know, in your short breaks, having children, what was your experience taking a career break? What types of challenges did you face, and how did you get past those?
I can go first. So I would say for me, my son Aiden, he's now 3.5. But when I first went on maternity leave, it was very weird because I'm so used to working, and it's not even a 9-to-5 job, but just working from like 8 to like 7, and just always being responsible for like managing, a small team and presentations and everything like that. So to go from just constantly working, commuting to, I'm home with this baby, which I was excited about. It was just a hard transition at first. Obviously, being a new mom, there's things like postpartum and just getting into the rhythm of things. So that obviously impacts kind of your new day to day. But for me, it was just kind of like trying to navigate this new world, knowing that I'm not like Camille, the marketer anymore. Camille, the marketer and mom. And I didn't have to really think about work during the break. But as maternity leave started to end, I felt a little bit of stress of like what my next move is going to be. Can I handle it all? Will I still be successful? What will that world look like? So it was just a lot of, navigating through the transition and ambiguity. I would say those are kind of like the biggest struggles, but then you get through it and you learn how to find your rhythm. But I would say those are kind of the biggest challenges during that time.
No, I couldn't agree more. It's like almost a similar journey. It was weird to have to kind of put like pencils down at, you know, a certain time because you have to go home and like relieve the nanny. And similar to Camille, I would like stay in the office sometimes till like the lights turned off on me because they were automatic, and I would have to like wave to say like, I'm still here. So you know, I always enjoyed working, kind of did like whatever needed to be done with no time constraints. Time management was probably my biggest struggle that took months to get used to, you know, like the morning routine, the night routine, and not necessarily like just wearing the one hat, but wearing multiple hats in the day, whether that was at work, coming home as a, you know, being a caregiver to my daughter, and then also with my husband. So just learning how to, you know, take each day, one day at a time, I felt like was like the best kind of gift that I gave myself. I even would look at the week and then break down the week to the day, and then what I can accomplish like in the morning and at night, to just kind of give myself less anxiety of everything that you need to kind of accomplish throughout the day. So yeah, I mean, so nothing else to add, very similar to Camille. It's just, it is a huge adjustment. Probably one of the biggest ones that I've had that I didn't realize how big it was going to be. But once you kind of get into it, then it's the new world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And yes, that one day at a time, that's great advice. Sometimes that's all you can do.
That's all you can do. One person.
And you mentioned time management. So that's a good transition into my next question for all of you. So many of our returners have other responsibilities, such as being a parent or schooling and things like that. And I know some of you still have your 9 to 5 in addition to this beauty business. So how do you handle juggling all of these things?
I can go.
Okay.
I'm a list person. I think probably the number one app besides like text on my phone, you know, where it kind of breaks down like the usage of the apps that you use, is Notes. I look at my work calendar, personal calendar, and obviously collaborate like with my husband on what he has going on, and just like write everything down. I have it right now where it's like September, October to-do list, and then I move it up to this week, and then I move that up to today. So that's kind of helped me with like everything I have like bubbling in my mind. So I live by calendars and lists. Like I just, and I'll forget, like if it's not on there, I'll be like, look, was supposed to do that, didn't remember. Like if it's not on my calendar, it's not on my list, like I'm not going to remember to do it.
It doesn't exist.
It does not exist.
Yeah. I would say I'm the same way too. For me, because my memory is terrible, I have to put everything in my phone, like alarms, like for this Zoom call, I had like Zoom call 1:30. Like I constantly put reminders there, like Nathalie, also calendars, and just over communicating everything to whoever I'm, you know, working with, or if I have an event or a lunch or something like that, it's just writing everything down, double checking schedules between me and my husband, or if I'm linking up with friends, making sure they're still good to go. And also trying not to put as much stress on myself if something doesn't happen or if something needs to get pushed out, because it's a lot to manage work and then, you know, Aurum and then your life, but things are not going to always go as planned, and it's okay. So it's just kind of being okay with that kind of flexibility, but over communicating, tracking everything, and putting everything in my iPhone is kind of like my saving grace.
Mm-hmm. Bridget, did you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I think that, you know, the listing thing is pretty important. I think from my perspective, I'm like a notorious overbooker. So I'll have in my mind these things that I have to do and places I have to be. And then it becomes like okay, well, now I don't want to do anything because there's too many things to do. So I'm just going to sit on the couch. So I think being mindful of that and being realistic with timing and like, you know, how much you can actually get done during the day is something I'm always you know, trying to remind myself as I'm making my to-do list. And similar to Nat, like if I don't write it down, if it's not on the list, it doesn't exist. So
Seems like the theme here is, yeah, a lot of lists. And
yes.
I myself, I'm very much a checklist person. I like to physically cross it off.
Yes.
So that's what keeps me on track as well.
Yeah, Nathalie is trying to get us to convert from notebooks, because I like to physically cross it off too, like, and write it down. But she's in the task online. So she's always like, no, guys, put it in your task. And I'm like, I kind of need
I
a
do
notebook.
both. So then I get confused. So I'm like,
Right.
oh wait, what did I write in my notebook versus the
Right.
You can't do both. You got to just stick with it. But there's still a satisfaction in notes. There's like a little lip you can click. And when I click it, you know, it's like, there's still that satisfaction of like, yes, like I got that done.
Yeah.
Versus the crossing. So I do that just to give myself that satisfaction. Yeah, I'm all virtual. I don't even know what a pen is. I don't know what that is.
Wow.
I'm making my way to the virtual,
Right.
making that transition.
Right.
Okay. Well, the next question that I had for you all is if you could just speak a little bit about your transition into entrepreneurship. That's obviously a big move from your normal 9-to-5 to entrepreneurship. So if you could tell us a little bit about how that experience went for you.
I can kick that off. For me, we were all kind of juggling 9-to-5s and building Aurum at the same time. And last year, I made the decision to just focus on Aurum. And honestly, it was terrifying. Like, it was just very scary. I think, you know, a lot of it came from, one, the unknown of what the business could be, but also even though I know what I'm doing, there's always this felt like there's a security blanket with a job, you know, and it kind of, and let me just say kind of, because someone else can also be in a room and make a decision than a room that you're not in, that you don't need to be there anymore, which is one of the reasons why entrepreneurship to me is so important, and putting your livelihood in your own hands. But it was a really scary transition. It was like exhilarating and exciting, but also kind of scary, even down to updating my LinkedIn, like making it so that I'm putting Aurum79 Beauty as my, you know, full-time job. And a lot of it is, you know, kind of mental, and like, what, you know, well, what are people going to think? And the imposter syndrome, like, am I really this like business owner now? Like, this is what I do. So I think getting over some of that was pretty major, and just being like, this is it, this is what I'm doing, and kind of jumping out the window with it. But as exciting as it was also scary from my end.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I still have my 9-to-5, obviously, but it was still scary to launch, because it's also, you know, we're all part of it, and it's attached to our name, and people like friends and family knew about it, and they're always going to ask it, how's business going? You know, so it was like a big thing to be kind of exposed, if you will. For me, it's also a little nervousness around still working my 9-to-5 and also working on this business, because I would never want my employer to think that, you know, I'm competing, have competing priorities. You know, at one point, obviously the goal is to, you know, part ways, but it's still that, you know, kind of uneasiness a little bit around it. Not like it's illegal or anything like that, but there's still a little bit of caution around there still. So it's not like I tell everybody that I work with what I have going on, but it's still kind of managing that exposure. So I'd say like a sense of like nervousness, a little anxiety sometimes, but still it's also very freeing and exciting to work on something that I'm really passionate about. So yeah, I would say those are kind of my worries, I should say, but it was also a very exciting time to launch when we launched.
I see a note in the chat that says, it talks about imposter syndrome. I struggle with imposter syndrome too. Great to hear how you overcame that. And so I just wanted to touch on that really quickly, because I think that a lot of, especially women, deal with this imposter syndrome and feeling like you're not quite there. And I think, you know, it's not like a switch that you do something and then it goes away, as much as it is in knowing that, you know, part of it is you being your biggest cheerleader. And if you don't believe in what you're doing, then who else is going to believe in it? And it's kind of this like just daily kind of talking yourself through it. But I will say, once you kind of make a decision to say, no, I do belong here, and stick to that, people react differently to you, and they believe you. If you believe, like if you act like you believe it, even if you're not sure if you believe it yet, act like you believe it, like fake it till you make it, and then people will start believing you. And I think, you know, unfortunately, it's easy to be like, well, don't care what anybody thinks, but we all care what other people think, especially when we have, you know, careers and we're trying to advance in our careers and or start businesses. So I do think that when people start to believe you, it also is encouraging in that way. So I will say, though, kind of fake it till you make it, and just make sure that you are kind of saying it as matter of factly as possible. It was one example. Long time ago, I was in college, and I was working at the Limited, the clothing store, and we were talking about like people, shoplifters, and how to spot them, and how a lot of people kind of are looking around and being very tricky with it. So you could tell, because they're uncomfortable, how to spot them, but also being aware of the person that walks out confidently, because those are the people that get away with it, because they don't look like they're uncomfortable. They're not acting like they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. They're kind of just faking it the whole time. And so I always think about that, like, no, act like you're supposed to be here, because you do know what you're doing. And, you know, that's kind of just something that I always replay.
That's a great analogy. Thank you. Camille or Natalie, did you have anything to add? Anything more about imposter syndrome? I know, sorry, that wasn't on the list, but now that we're on the topic, I do think that it's something that a lot of people struggle with. And I'm wondering if either of you have ever felt that, and also how you overcame that.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to everything that Bridget and Camille have said. You know, it is a very scary and exciting, just like Camille said, I had those same emotions, probably just equally weighted as we were launching, where in my mind, I tried to get out of my own way to say, this is fun, this is exciting, this is like something on the side for now, it will eventually grow, just to get out of my own way, that we actually have like a legit business that has like fulfillment and vendor relationship and social media, like it's a fully running business. And then at the same time, scary, you know, to the points that they made earlier around like, what are people going to think? I am a professional. You know, is this something that it's like on par to like what the other people within the industry are doing? So there is a lot of nervousness from my end. And regarding that, I mean, I don't think I have really anything else to add other than, you know, just believing in yourself. And it's been, I think, I don't know if I could have done something like this, like by myself. For me, having business partners and us like believing in each other, trusting each other, and like just saying like we can do it together and holding hands, for me made a difference. And yeah, that's all I have to add.
Yeah, a team and a support team is also very important with these kind of transitions. So I agree with that. And Nat, you said something too, just around, or Camille earlier, like I'm a marketer, I am this, I am that, and your career begins to define you, especially when you're working. Similar to Nathalie, you know, we've worked on some of the same brands. So it's this cachet that comes with like, oh, I work with Pepsi and Coca-Cola and Bacardi. And it's a security of like, I'm with them. Like, you know, I'm defined by this world of advertising, which is cool and it's fun and it's this and that. And so making a transition can be like, okay, well, who am I again? Like, what am I now? But it's so fun. Fun is like not even the best word, but it's like amazing to be able to redefine your space and kind of fresh start and all of that good stuff. It really is, you know, something that once you're in it, and that doesn't always have to be entrepreneurship, right? That's a new career path. I have a friend who was in marketing forever. She really wanted to go back to school to get a psychology degree. And she, for the last 2.5 years, she went back to school with 2 twin boys in the mix and like just made it happen. And it was scary for her and financially taxing and all these things. But now she's, you know, at the end of the light in the tunnel where she is now, you know, a licensed psychologist and living a different life almost from what she had before. So I think that's something important too. Like if there's something that you want to do, there is time, because we always feel like time is always against us and running out, but there's time for you to do what you want to do. And you could change your career path or start a business or whatever. You just have to do it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Great words of insight from all of you. All right. So my next question that I would like to ask you all, in our program, we like to talk a lot about transferable skills. So, you know, everyone here is pursuing something in IT, but maybe not have all had an IT background. So I'm curious to know, in your experience, what transferable skills you developed that helped you to launch your business.
Man, everything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Everything.
I don't know, like for me at least, it's like, because I'm in the same field, you know, it didn't feel so, like everything's a learning curve when you're launching your own business. But because I work in beauty, it wasn't far-fetched, right? So I took a lot of my skills, you know, that I already had and just transferred it to kind of what we're doing now. But I would say like, I've learned a lot too from Aurum, you know, that I could bring into my 9 to 5, just in terms of like, giving an example, just like really getting to know our consumers and like, how do we connect with them more? And it's on there's different touch points in that, like there's email, there's social media, but I don't work in social media, you know, during the day. So it's a lot of, you know, how do I connect with consumers on that level? Well, I did a lot of like Googling, like learning on YouTube. There's tons of tutorials on, you know, social media or CRM or how to use Shopify. Like everything is on the internet right now. And I'm pretty sure this could be the same for other industries as well, that you could just get a leg up on or just learn something new, which has been a tremendous help. So I would say, you know, I had some transferable skills, but I also learned some new skills, thanks to kind of working on Aurum, but also just seeing what else is out there, seeing how other brands do things, how friends do things, and taking advantage of the internet as well.
You make a good point. So I'd like to actually change my question for the rest of you. Yes, transferable skills either way, whether it helped you in launching your business or whether your current business is helping you with your other career.
I'd say, you know, with transferable skills helping with the business, everything that I've been working for, without dating myself, about 20 years. And it's been very concentrated in marketing and advertising, which from a brand perspective and agency perspective, both, it is almost like you are running your business. When you are managing an account for an advertising agency, you have to treat it as though it's your business. And that's from strategy and insights to, you know, help push a product to managing a budget and a P&L, and how do we market? How do we advertise? Who's our consumer segment? So there's so many layers of that then goes into building a brand. And Nat and I talk about this all the time, is that because we worked on the same brands in the same agency a lot. And it's like we have this experience in building brands. That's what we do, reinvigorating them or introducing new SKUs. And I think the challenge is that we don't have the same budget because we're a small business. So it's different to, you know, work with a brand like Bacardi to introduce a new product versus our budget. But I think across the board, and it used to be a pain point and like, oh my God, I have to do everything. So it's a gift and a curse, because while it was exhausting then, it's like all these different things now that you're able to take into building our own brand. So.
No, yeah, same. I mean, as Bridget stated, we actually work together. So a lot of the same skills that I have are, you know, similar to hers. She's actually at one point was my boss. So she taught me a lot along the way or very early in my career. The one key thing that, you know, adding to what Bridget already touched on is just the communication piece of it. Because I have been working in the professional setting for so long and dealing with so many personalities and, you know, different types of communication, I feel like that skill has been hugely helpful, especially working with like a lot of the vendors that we have within our platform. Would be like something else that I would add in terms of like how to, you know, negotiate and not be afraid to ask questions, and all they can say is, you know, no, in terms of like pricing, because we are a business at the end of the day and there are certain margins that we need to stick to. So I think, you know, the bravery behind some of the communications that we've been managing is something that I definitely have taken away from like my 9-to-5 and have applied it to Aurum.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all those. I'd like to ask another question based on some of the comments that you all just made about learning and how there's so much learning on at our fingertips. So how do you all continue to learn and to consume information in your careers to help you move forward in your career?
I read a lot of trade publications. Like there's a lot of online like marketing, beauty magazines, things like Inc. and Forbes, like really any kind of publication, you'll find stuff in Vogue or, you know, like MSN.com. So definitely staying up to date in terms of like in that sense. And then also following some brands that I admire, you know, to see how they're moving, what they're doing. And, you know, if they created a new launch, you know, what went, you know, try to dig in deep to see kind of what went into that launch and how they're communicating. So doing a lot of kind of like spying on other brands and reading up on different trade publications.
I wish I were more of a reader, but I'm like, I get exhausted with reading and then I skim and then I'm like, I think I got enough. I got it. So I have been like searching and finding a ton of like, you know, free courses or free classes or free webinars and things like that, whether that's from, you know, beauty specific resources or content creators. There are a lot of content creators. I think another one is like Facebook groups. There's a lot of exchange of information if you get connected with the right Facebook group. So that's been a big win for me, just in terms of one, finding like-minded people, but then also being able to actually discuss some of the challenges and wins and, oh, you did this, maybe that's something I can apply to. So I would say for me, like Facebook groups, and then any kind of free coaching, classing, virtual things that I could be a part of.
Yeah, I have a few emails that I've signed up to that come my way, but both in my 9 to 5 and with Aurum, I get a lot of competitive insight from just Instagram. Like, I'm a stalker. So I know what all of our competitors are doing, their current campaigns. You know, I'm like constantly looking at stories to see kind of like the cadence of what they're posting about. So I have found that helpful to be on the pulse of, you know, like I'll use my 9 to 5 on exactly what our competitors are doing, kind of where they're at the moment. And usually from Instagram, that then sometimes takes me to, you know, articles and links and external, you know, more publications that I typically read, but I have been leveraging that a lot to really see what people are up to. And by people, I mean brands.
Yes, you all make great points with a lot of those traditional resources out there, whether it is, you know, webinars or just reading articles or just doing research on your competition. But I do like that suggestion of more non-traditional, even Facebook groups.
Yeah.
People are so willing to share information and so eager to learn. I think that's really a great suggestion. You know, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's great advice. Thank you. So the last topic that I would like to talk about before I open it up for questions is ageism in the workplace. And I'd like to know, you know, if any of you have experienced this or if you know someone and how you overcame that.
I'll say from, I think, one, I want to acknowledge that ageism works both ways, because I think a lot of time when we think about it, we think about the older generation or more mature people getting pushed out. But I recall a time when I first got out of college and I did an internship at the Indiana General Assembly. I'll try to make this quick. I did an internship there, but I was working with a lot of the state reps and senators, but I was specifically working with the Ways and Means department, which they handle all the money and funding. So when I left that internship, I was a pretty hot ticket, especially to nonprofit organizations, because I had this internship with relationships that I had developed. And I remember taking my first job, which was a manager position. And again, imposter syndrome kind of getting in there too, because I'm like, wait, I'm like 22. I'm now the PR manager for this nonprofit health organization. And I was the youngest person there, but it was a lot of like, you know, and it was a great experience, but I do feel like in the mentorship that I was getting, it was very much like baby girl, which I got called a lot by the person who was running it at the time. And I think that contributed to me feeling nervous about even being able to ask questions, because I didn't want to be baby girl. I didn't want to be like the youngest person and not know what I'm doing. So instead of me asking questions, I would always just pretend like I knew and then go find it out later, which is not a great way to be in any career. And I had to unlearn that later and pull myself out of that and be like, okay, no, if I don't know what's happening, I got to ask the question. So I just want to acknowledge that it does work both ways. I think when we talk about, you know, age in the more mature sense, I do think that a lot of companies, and we've been guilty too, of focus on the newest and hottest generation. Like everything was millennials in 2008, 2009. It was like the hot ticket. Now everything is Gen Z or A or double A or whatever they're calling them. And so I think that while it is important for brands to figure out who they're talking to and what to say, having that kind of cross-generational staff or folks that work with you in a place is really helpful. And I think this is on companies to better understand how that plays into what they can offer, because you may be looking at the youngest or the newest generation, but they might not be the biggest spenders for your industry, or their influence, like all the new kids now, their influence is actually coming from the 90s. So it's like they may put a little bit of new sauce on it, but not really, because the 90s was everything.
Yeah.
So so I think it's important for companies to realize the efficiency and benefit of having multi-generational people at the table when it comes to decision making, and especially like creative and influence and marketing.
Yeah, and to echo Bridget's point on that, so being on the corporate side, I've definitely seen a pattern of like new management on certain teams. Like once, women start to have their first kid or second kid, we get placed on like the kind of safer, easier brands. I mean, I'm guilty. I have asked to be on like a less crazy brand, but that doesn't mean don't want to go back to like the busier brands later. But you'll see at some companies that there's just a shift of like, once you hit 30 something, okay, we're going to put you over there in special projects. And now we're going to bring the 20 something year olds to manage the huge brands. And then it's kind of like, that's it. And I've seen that happen quite a bit. But it's unfortunate too, because as Bridget said, like regardless of how old you are, you have something of value to bring. You have a different experience, regardless of the field or, a different perspective that's just as important. So I think I'm starting to see more articles about companies addressing this. I think it might take a minute for it to shift, but I'm glad people are having the conversation. And for us, because we recognize that, all ages, our brand primarily focuses on women 35 plus, because so many times they're often ignored, but like, again, you don't stop aging, you don't stop being beautiful. Your routines might change, your habits might change, but you're still important, as you grow older. So that's something that we think all companies and all brands, should recognize.
Yeah, I've experienced this firsthand. It actually, I look young for my age, and I've been responsible for brands where I'm managing a multi-million-dollar budget. And I actually have one experience that kind of really shifted me. As much as it was terrible in the moment, like I was appreciative of it long term. When we were about to start a meeting, I'm the owner of the brand. There's, it's a large meeting, everyone's coming in, and I'm introducing myself. And there was a particular guy who was older. He looked at me and I was like, hi, I'm Nathalie Day. I'm the brand manager of this brand. And he looked at me and he's like, you're the brand manager? You're a kid. And I was so upset in that moment. Like I couldn't even like start the meeting right away, because I felt like that frog in my throat coming in, of like, oh, I better not cry at work. I've never have. This is not okay. And I said, we're going to start in 5 minutes. And I went, I got myself water. But I think it's like, I thought I was going to go into the meeting like being timid or like feeling beat up, but something in the way that he looked at me fueled me. And I like put my shoulders back, and it's like, no, I'm in this position for a reason. I can do this. I add value. And ever since that experience, it's been like a shift in like my presentation and how I present myself in meetings, just like being a little bit more aware that, okay, people do see me and I do look younger, but when they, hear the words coming out of my mouth and they see the material that I'm about to present and how I'm running this brand, they're going to say, okay, she knows what she's doing. So yeah, it wasn't like the best day, but I'm very thankful for him, because it was something that I was like, oh, okay. It really fueled me to, show up and kind of put my big girl pants on, so to speak, at the moment, although I was grown. So yeah, I've experienced it firsthand.
Wow. I wish I could say I was shocked that someone would be bold enough to say something like that, calling you, a kid. Because it's not appropriate. It's not okay to make someone feel that way. I had a similar experience
Especially
one
like in a
time.
business setting.
Oh yeah.
And before a meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And
yes.
meeting for the first time, it was not fun.
You all made good points about ageism, about how people think it's usually on the older end, but it does happen on the younger end as well. In my last position, I had someone tell me that I didn't look legally old enough to work there. And
Oh,
I just
wow.
walked away. So yeah, those kind of comments are not fun. So thank you for addressing that it can happen on the younger end as well. I appreciate those comments. So for the rest of us here, we have a little over 10 minutes, and I have gone through all the questions that I wanted to ask. So now I'd like to open it up to the group if you'd like to ask any questions. Feel free to just unmute yourself and go.
I have a question. It kind of goes back to the discussion in the beginning when you were each talking about how you manage, work and life and potentially having 2 jobs and family. Can you comment at all about, have you had to change how you approach things? So I know one thing that sometimes I find myself doing is I try to do everything perfect, or, have this high standard of quality that I want to hit. And sometimes I've been reminded by my bosses, like, you just need to do it good enough. Like, I don't need to pay for perfect. So can you guys comment on that? Like, have you had to, like, within yourself, challenge yourself to, like, okay, wait a minute, it's fine. It doesn't have to be 100%. It needs to be like 90%. Have any of you encountered that?
Yeah, I would say, like, definitely I have, and, Vanessa, Nat, Camille, everybody has kind of even gotten on me about it, because I can nitpick something to death or research it before just executing. And I think perfection is a myth, and that's what we have, this way that we want it to look or feel or be. And it's similar to like being on stage at Broadway, where they're like, if you mess up as an actor and you just keep going, the audience doesn't know that you messed up. So when we're nitpicking all these little things because we want it to be a certain way, it's still not going to be like sloppy, right? You still want to get it to a place that it is, to your liking. But progress over perfection, I've had to keep replaying that, like, just do it. And the thing is, if you start progressing, you can always go back and continue to tweak and perfect, the way you want it. But the point is just starting and making that progress. And then, yeah, you can go back and perfect later. So
yeah, I would say, like, as when it comes to the workplace too, like, obviously it depends on the industry, but there are times like I would be obsessing over a couple of slides because it had to look a certain way, like hours. And looking back, I was like, God, this is so much time. Like, you don't realize that in the, the moment, where my boss would be like, just walk away from it and come back to it, or just have another set of eyes. And they're like, oh, this is good. Or they might give you something, the last piece that you need to do to tweak that slide. And you're like, oh, I'm good to go. So it's hard, but like what I do now is just kind of like, okay, I have an hour, I got to get this done. What are the key things I at least want to accomplish? Like, start it, get some information and like, a summary or whatever, and just kind of break it up in pieces. And then I have other people on my team review it because then I feel a bit more confident that it's in the right place, and then kind of move on. But I don't dwell on things as much as I have in the past. But it took a while. I had to work on it, and you have some managers who are kind of crazy, but I think if you're conscious of it, that's like kind of the first step, and just breaking it up.
Thank you. That's helpful.
I'm kind of a mixed bag. It kind of depends on what I'm working on. I mean, like, I'm working on a script for work where I'm going to be reading off the script, presenting in front of like 250 people. So for the last like 2 weeks, I have been obsessing over like this script. It's my boss is like, just upload it to the FTP site and like, just like, you're done. It's done. So there are certain things I still become obsessed with, but the one thing that my 9-to-5 job has kind of taught me is to like get out of my own way. I think coming from like traditional agency side, when you have been managing brands, like you have to feel like you're so perfect just because of the dynamic of the brand to agency relationship. And when I converted over to more of the client side, it was just like, there's no time, we gotta go. You push go on certain things. There is no time for perfection. You gotta cut the bleeding on certain, you know, business decisions. And so it really depends. There's still those things that I'm just like obsessive over. And then there's those things that you just like can't, you don't have the time. So I think like prioritizing like what it is, like I think it's okay to give something else a little bit more love, and other things just like, okay, this is as good as it's going to be. You got to just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to like it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you all.
Hi everyone, this is Sheetal. So I have a question for you. First of all, thank you so much for your advices. And my question is similar with Mary's question. Is as I know you are working mom, you are taking care of business and then home, everything is in your plate. So in between of this, somewhere there is a point you feel like, oh, I have to take care of my health too. Maybe it is physical or mental, in both ways. So how you do that, how you manage it? It may be a little bit off topic than a career I'm asking, but I think it is important to everyone. So
yeah, I think that is a very important question though, because it actually plays into career, because if you're not able to, or being so overwhelmed that you're not making any space for self-care and really carving out time to experience your, or prioritize your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, then that's going to play into you know, what happens family and career. And I think that especially for, you know, women of color, there has been this kind of burdensome strength that we have been given of like just being strong and taking care of things and getting it done. And I think in some ways that does make you durable. But in other ways, it's exhausting, you know, because we're still regular people too. And so I think a lot of people struggle with that, and the juggling act, and even the hustle culture of like, you know, rest when you're dead. I don't want to rest when I'm dead. I want to go to bed now. Like I want sleep while I'm here. So I think it's a conscious effort to say, no, not today. Today is my time. And that's hard to do, especially when people are depending on you. But know that, you know, like the same, I think I mentioned it earlier, like if you don't believe in yourself, who else will? Like if you don't take care of yourself, then no one else will. If you don't raise your hand and say like, hey, I got to tap out today, I need to leave today, or, you know, babe, can you do the dishes? Because I can't today, or, you know, whatever that thing is. Because you almost have to teach people how to treat you and how to respect your time, because people will just go, push. And then and if you allow them, you know, then that's what it is. So I think, and it could be a scary thing to do. And it may feel selfish, but selfish should not be a negative word. Selfish and focusing on self is actually a good thing and helps you be more available in the long run.
And I've said it better myself.
Yeah, I had to learn that the hard way. Just check in on yourself daily, even if it's for a minute. You know, how's your engine light? Are you full? Are you empty? Is what I had to learn. I learned that the hard way, where you just push yourself to the point where you're not even paying attention to how you're feeling or symptoms. Have you gone to the doctor? You know, how are you eating? Your nutrition. I think on a daily basis, whether that's in the morning or at night, we each owe ourselves a few minutes of just, you know, checking in, seeing how you're feeling. It's the only thing I can say, because we're busy. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to say book a spa day, you know, like it's just sometimes just not realistic.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes you just need to go sit down.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to
have a
sit
glass
down
of
for a
water.
second. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Sometimes I
just
just walk away. I'll go upstairs, like my son, I love my son. My husband will be down there and I'm like, I'll be back. And I'm not back for like an hour and a half. And it's glorious. Like I do that multiple times during the week. And sometimes on the weekends, I'm like, I'm going into the city to hang with friends. What time are you going to be back? Don't worry about it. Like,
Right.
you know, and sometimes you just need that. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, got that out of the way. I'm good to go. You know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, re-energizing. Same with the airplane. Put your mask on first before you can help anybody else. Because
Thank you. That is really helpful.
good.
All right, so we have about 3 minutes left. So I am going to end it here, but if we had any remaining questions, you guys can funnel those through to me, and then I can send them to these ladies. I just wanted to thank you again for joining us. It was really great to have all three of you here and hear all of your perspectives and all of your insights, really valuable information from your career path. So thank you for taking this time out of your day to join us.
Thank you so much.
Thank
This has been really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And I do want to say, like, part of what we're trying to do with Aurum79 Beauty is build a community where we can have more of this kind of dialogue and just support for women in general. And so if you guys go to our website, which is Aurum79beauty.com, and join our newsletter, we're there trying to, you know, again, build a community so that we can, you know, have more of this dialogue and really be support systems to one another.
Thank you. And I can send the link out as well to the group. So
Awesome.
thank you again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful weekend. This was a lovely way to send us into the weekend. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.